Hello, Justin with Lucky8 Off-Road, and today we're going to do an install on our Discovery 2 CFE front winch bumper. Pretty easy install. You got to rip the bumper off and install our bumper using 4 bolts. This bumper we're going to do for this particular truck has a winch going in it and the fog lights, so you get to see all that stuff. I've got an 0304 here. It's a little bit different than the, 99.5 to 2002. I'm going to show you some tricks on how to get these little end caps off and get the bumper off the truck. If yours is destroyed, you can just rip it right off. It's no big deal. I'm going to try to, like I said, walk through, give you some tips on how these end caps come off and how the bumpers are bolted on. So I'm gonna get started. First thing is getting this grill out, and my beer meter, I'm giving this a 3 beer job. You're gonna be thirsty, especially if it's hot out. All right. With the grill out of the way, I'd like to get that out. I don't want anything to happen to it. We're gonna have to trim it anyways later on, but it's safe, it's out of the way. I'm gonna move to these end caps. There's 6 Phillips head screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The ones in the wheel well can be a pain, especially up here in Buffalo. They get a little bit rusty. So cue hyperspeed. I'm gonna take this screwdriver and get to work. You have to be extra careful. I was trying to get the rubber hose off, and the plastic over time has become super brittle on this headlight washer. Thankfully, we don't need it. This corner may or may not have had a crack in it. I think it did, looking at the other side. And when I took it out, it cracked even more. Again, these older trucks with the heat cycles, the plastics have become quite brittle. Be careful. Moving on to the bumper. You've got a bolt right here, it's a 10mm, and 2 10mm bolts right there. We're gonna want to bust those free and get the bolts out. Moving right along, there are 6 Phillips screws on the bottom of this. I'm sure they're rusty. I'm gonna struggle a little bit. I keep struggling with my words. I'm gonna struggle a little bit with the bolts, and it's a perfect time for beer. It's almost time for beer. All right, I'm gonna get this front bumper off. Okay, now we are almost there. Next thing to do is to take the bumper core support and separate it from the frame. It's held on with 4 bolts. I'll bring the camera in so you can see on the inside. Underneath it's gonna be a little bit ugly. I'm trying to do this on the ground to simulate what it would be like in the driveway. Oh, I'll just zoom in, show you the bolts, and you'll have to find the nut on the other side. There you go. There's a nice clean bolt on the top and a rusty one on the bottom. You're gonna wanna get those off. And same thing on the other side. I'll try to stick the camera in there so you can see the bottom. Actually, I can show you guys the bolts. It's no big deal. There they are. Go right here and there. We're gonna want to get that out of the way. We're gonna want to get those off, and away you go. All right, you guys would have loved to seen that. It's laying under the truck, rust dropping on my face, get my ass kicked. But I'm almost there. On the side of the bumper, if you're trying to keep it, there's a plastic hole that you're supposed to stick a 13mm through, which barely fits. What I like to do is with the bumper loose, pop it out of the way gently, and then I can access that 13mm. You gotta break it loose on that side and that side. Hyperspeed. with all of the Phillips screws on the liner out of the way for the bumper. Those 2 hidden 10 mils loosened up. They also need to be loosened up on the inside so you can slide this little grommet out of the way. 6 screws on the bottom, done. 4 bolts through it, done. End caps done. Should be able to just wiggle it out of the way. On a nice Southern truck, it's probably on the floor already. Here, I'm gonna need a sledgehammer, but I'm gonna pull the front bumper off and hopefully we're ready to move on. All right, that's that. The bumper is off. I'm gonna call it a day. I'll come back tomorrow morning and we'll put the CFE with the winch and the fog lights on this D2. I'll be right back. Lights are installed and everybody's gonna ask, what lights are they, Eric?
These are the Baja Designs Squadron R driving sport combo. We offer them on the website as an option when you buy the bumper, as well as with a winch, which is what's next.
But why are we using this particular light?
Because they fit. And they're awesome.
Yes and yes, but we're using these lights because of the amp draw. The amp draw is less than the factory light, so therefore we can just use the wiring harness that comes with it and connect to the factory fog lights. If you want to run a switch to your switch pod or whatever you want, that's all on you, that's fine. If you just want to run them off your factory fogs, you can do it with these Squadrons. And next up is to get ready for the winch, but first we're going to install the bumper. If you are reusing your factory bolts, go right ahead. I like to use an upgraded grade 8 steel bolt, and it is a 10 millimeter bolt. Ooh. Ooh. That's the one I want. Here you go. Let's gently set this in. Bumper is on. I've left it loose for now. We're going to install the winch next. So let's grab that. It easily sits in there. You put the hardware inside the winch on the feet. Actually, I can show a close-up when we're doing it. And then the bolts go through the bottom of the bumper, tighten on the winch. On these D2s, there's a little piece of metal in the back that I always remove. You know what, I'll bring that in. So if you look right here, you've got the electronic terminals for the winch. When this is in place, they're kind of jammed up against this little thin cross support. That's an issue. When the rope spools, it's gonna catch on this, it's gonna cut your rope. That's expensive. And frankly, this bumper is so beefy and strong, I don't think this is doing anything anymore. I'm going to chop it off real quick with the Sawzall, and then we'll install the winch. At that point, I'll bring the camera back in and show you how the bolts go in the winch.
All right, so the winch we've chosen for this truck is another one that we sell in the package with the CFE. It's the Terra Firma 12K, 12,000 pound pulling capacity, synthetic line, wireless remote control, awesome winch. And like most other winches on the market, they come with these square nuts that go in the bottom of the winch, and they slide right into this little spot here to make it easy when you're putting it on, because you can't get the wrench inside there. They just lock inside. Once it's in the tray, you take your bolt, it's gonna go up behind it. They just thread in. 4 of them, and you're done. Rest is all. Where's this thing? It must have just fallen out. You saw it fall out. That was in there a second ago, and you were drinking tea, and I'm trying to do the job. Maybe if I had some help.
tea was delicious, by the way.
Come on!
This is the part of the video where Eric crawls under a car. When you're under there, find my 13 mil socket, right?
Yeah. Oh, looky here, giant pry bar. I'll get the...
This is a precision job, like that amazing Sawzall cut. I'll set the winch in. Maybe you shouldn't have had 4 Red Bulls to get the day going.
Now you can go into the truck. Look out!
Like that glove.
Alright, so the winch is in, I really struggled with it. Next we're going to do the fair lead. It's going to go on the front, obviously. Make sure you put your rope through it before you do it. And then we're going to do the control box. Control box is dealer's choice. Multiple ways to put it on, sideways, this way, upside down. In the engine bay, we're going to kind of move the bracket, adjust it. We'll show you how our preferred method of doing it is.
All right, we've got the winch in, the winch controller mounted. I like it up front, it's easy to access. We're going to run the power and the ground up to the battery. But I want to show you something on the back side. It's how to connect the winch controller box to the winch. You bring the camera in. It's pretty easy. There's instructions for it too, but you can have a quick look here. So back here, we should have probably done this when it was outside the truck. Oh boy, oh boy, oh watch. All right. Okay, we'll start it right here. So on the back side of the winch, there's a bunch of these little terminals. They're all color-coded. See if you can angle that. There you go. You can see there's the red terminal to the red one, the yellow to the yellow, and the black to the black. Center one is for the main ground, and the ground for the control pack. Pretty simple. Next step is to wire the battery. I like to bring the power cable up through the bottom of the battery box. I drill a small little hole in it. The ground I bring on the outside, that way they don't chafe together. And then, you want to bring that in real quick? I'll show you some of the connections in here. The D2, customer's missing something. The D2 battery terminals are not my favorite. This one here, we had to put a little bit of copper in to try to build up the clamp. But they do have a 8 mil threaded portion of it, threaded part, 8 mil, and that's what I use to attach the power. Do not put it on here. This is like a captive nut that squeezes these things together, and they're garbage from the factory. Same thing from here on this side. I like to run the ground right up to this main ground plate. I'm not so concerned about that little bit of a jump for power loss. That's how I wire them. What do we got left?
Next, we're going to trim the grill so you can access the control box and also the 3-spool.
Okay.
And then we're going to put the A-bar on, wire up the fog lights.
Oh, we're almost home. All right, so the wiring harness is out. I brought it up. This little gap here makes it way easier to work on. Take a look here. Baja Design supplies this end, gives you a factory finish. There's some little pins in there. You crimp them and away you go. Plug this into the Baja harness and the lights will work. I'm gonna do it behind the bumper and zip tie it up. Moving on to the next step. We are almost there. Next is the bull bar. It's got 4 studs. They sit in 4 holes. If you don't want the bull bar, you don't have to put it on, but we think it looks way better. A line here, here. As they say on Thomas, a biff and a bash, but never a crash. Gently wiggle it into place. There's 4 nuts that go on the bottom.
And washers.
And washers. And we'll tighten this up. We'll put the bumper where we want it to be to get it level on the truck. Tighten those 4 bolts down on the frame. And this job should be finito. Oh wait, no, we gotta trim the little inside plastic liners. Yep, we're almost there. Bye, Christine. All set, all done, easy peasy. Realistically, took about 5.5 hours doing it on the ground. If you've got a lift, you're gonna shave at least 2 hours so you don't have to be kneeling, and it's way easier to get the bolts off. But I think it looks fantastic. I love the update with the fog lights. Your thoughts?
It's clean. I think it's one of the better bumpers on the market, and I'm being totally biased, but for the price, for $1,700 with the winch, $2,000 with the fog lights, it's definitely a bargain.
Yep, definitely an upgrade to the look of the front end of this truck. And on that, it's time for beer again. I'll see you guys on the next one.